Welcome to Contact Has Begun, brought to you by the grace of the World Puja Network, one of the last vestiges of truth concerning benevolent, spiritually, and technologically advanced off-world visitors. Some refer to these visitors as our greater family of man or returning ancient ancestors. I am James Gillen, your host, and our guests also include cutting-edge physicists, authors, teachers, and healers dedicated to the awakening and healing of humanity and the earth. Let the journey begin. Greetings, this is James Gillen with World Puja. I've got a great show. I've got Leslie Kean here, and she's the author of UFOs, Generals, Pilots, and Government Officials Go on the Record. And she does have quite a repertoire of officials that have come forward. And she's an investigative journalist. She's been in almost every paper on the planet, looks like. And I could go on and on talking about this, but I really want to get into the information that she has here. So Leslie, are you with us?
Yes, I am. It's great to be with you, James. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah, it's awesome. I can't thank you enough for the work that you're doing. You know, it's actually, getting officialdom to come forward. And
well, thanks. I mean, it's the particular niche. That's the niche the role that I'm playing within this larger issue. And somebody's got to do this, and I've got the training in the background to do it. So that's what I've been focusing on for a long time.
Yeah, I've met quite a few of the people that are in your book, and I spent some time with the former defense minister, the Canadian defense minister.
Oh yeah.
And the Robert Soros was just here, actually.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's so great. It's so great when you can get these kinds of people to come there.
Yeah, in the conferences we've had almost everybody come up here, from Nick Bajic to all of the exopolitics, Alfred Weber and Michael Salas, and they've all been here, and we had Dolores Cannon and Mary Rodwell, and I can go on and on, but all the who's who in ufology have been here. Wendell Stevens, rest his soul, and
right.
Quite a few others, and they got to see firsthand, these ships coming in and powering up overhead and doing all kinds of crazy things. But anyway.
Well, I still hope to make it there someday, James. I know you've extended the invitation, and my life has been so crazy and busy, and you know how it is. But I still want to come sometime. Well, although, on the other hand, it's a funny thing. I've said this a number of times that actually I think it's probably, in terms of the role that I'm playing in this issue, it's actually better that I've never seen a UFO. I don't know if you can understand that, but, lots of times when I'm being interviewed, and if anybody's sort of at all skeptical, they'll go, oh, well, have you seen a UFO? And I often feel like it's, it adds to my credibility in a strange way with certain types of people to be able to say, no, I haven't. I'm looking at this completely from the outside as an objective journalistic participant who's, analyzing the data, because people are really affected by seeing these things, obviously, and I think in a strange way it's to my advantage that I haven't, just professionally, with certain kinds of people. So even though I really want to see one, and I sort of feel like if I go to your ranch, I'm guaranteed that I will. Maybe that's why I've been avoiding it.
Yeah.
It's the first time I've really realized it with this book. It's kind of really hit me that, there could be a problem with some people if they say, oh, well, she's just one of these crazies who's seen one and she's trying to, or maybe she's been too affected by it. And I'm afraid that I might be so affected by it that it might make me feel less objective. So anyway, that's just an aside, but
it does change your life, definitely. And I think it actually gives you more conviction, because being in this field myself, if they didn't come here on a regular basis, you have so much mud thrown at you. You go, is this worth it? Do I even want to deal with this anymore? And then the ships come in and they power up, and you get pulsed with this real beautiful, loving, joyous, blissful energy, and you go, okay, and it actually keeps you back on track. It keeps you, because, when you have so much garbage thrown at you, self-doubt starts to creep in. And
I can really relate to that. Yeah, and you have the direct experience that just keeps fortifying you. And then it matters less and less what other people have to say. So I can see that perspective for sure. Yeah.
I think you would probably have more of a conviction when you went out there, because then you could say, look, I've seen it. This is what I saw. You explain it to me. Give me a rational explanation for this, and I'll accept it.
Right. That might be the next step for me, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, because then you can say, look, I've seen it. These are doing things that meteors and satellites and other things can't do. I haven't seen a meteor, morph into 3 and then back to 1 again and then take off and make a turn at several thousand miles an hour and actually interact with people. I mean, these are intelligent craft,
Yeah, well, you make it, but yeah, I mean, I think you're making a really good point, James.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll put that into my hopper.
Yeah, I think a lot of the people that have come here are they've had their own experience, and they're actually coming here to figure out they're beyond, are they real or do they exist or whatever, because they know they've had their own experiences. Now they're going into the realm of, okay, who are they and why are they here? And that's why most people come for that kind of information.
Mm. That's fascinating.
And they get the download, while they're here. It's like I don't have to do anything. All they have to do is go out in the field, and they start receiving the telepathic downloads and things of that nature.
Mm.
But going back to your book, I wanted to cover some of the people that you've. What would you say your most interesting interview was, as far as the different people you've interviewed in your book?
Oh gosh, it's so difficult to answer, and I just want to clarify too, of course, that it really goes beyond interviews, because about half this book is actually written by other people.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I have interviewed people like Major General de Brouwer from Belgium or Major General Dennis Letty from France. But what's important about the book, I think, is that they've written their own pieces in their own words, in their own chapters, so people can actually hear directly from them. It's not just me quoting them. I just wanted to make that point. Gosh, to be able to single one out is really difficult.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're all different people. The cases are all strong and different. I mean, they're all really, really strong cases, I think, the ones that these people have written about. I've met most of them. There's a couple that I haven't met. I guess there's only one who actually wrote it. No, there's 2 who've written chapters in the book that I haven't met.
Mm-hmm.
The others I know very well, and I just think, what I really tried to do is just sort of this book was sort of targeted for the status quo, for the skeptics who normally wouldn't even read a book on UFOs, who wouldn't think about UFOs, but nonetheless the people that need to be reached if we want to actually see policy change in the United States. And so I just presented with them, with the absolute best, most irrefutable, the best documented case evidence that we have, based on official documents and physical evidence and all the things that are needed to convince people who have never had any experiences and don't think about the subject normally. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of strong cases that fit that description. I'd be happy to talk about any of them. It's just hard for me to sort of single one out as being the best. But the Belgian wave is one that I think is really fascinating.
Well, these people you have on record, I mean, these are highly educated people. They're in positions of power, very responsible positions. They've been checked out or they wouldn't have made it into those positions. And, you have people with their finger on nuclear weapons and things of that nature in this book coming forward, head of the FAA, generals, pilots, all extremely credible, responsible people and highly educated people. So it's just a no-brainer. I don't see how anybody could argue with, what you've written.
I know. I mean, I completely agree with you. And the people that have read this book, I mean, I just can't tell you how many emails and comments I'm getting that are incredibly positive. I think the challenge is to get people to read it who normally scoff at the subject. I think, though, if they actually read this book from beginning to end, I think just what you said has got to be the case. There's just no way that they can dismiss it. And I think the only way they can protect themselves is to refuse to read it at all. I mean, there was a review today, a semi-review in the Washington Post of this book, and it was just so the guy wrote maybe 3 or 4 paragraphs. It was so clear to me that he hadn't read the book. Mm-hmm. And he was very, it was one of these sort of debunking tone articles, and they act like they're so superior, and they misrepresent what you're actually saying. They miss the point of the book. And I think if somebody like that actually read the whole book, they would have a different attitude. It's just impossible not to, given what's in this book. I mean, I have to say, and I'm not just taking credit for it. Half the book is, as I said, other people's presentations, not mine. So I think, you got to make them open it up and read it from beginning to end. That's the challenge.
Yeah, it's based logic. I always say, after reading this book, any rational, logical, or reasonable mind would come to the conclusion that obviously there's something going on. It's unidentified. It's flying. It's an object. Minimal. You'd have to give it that.
Exactly.
And so then we go into the illogical, the irrational, and the unreasonable. And, they don't want, they have that cognitive dissonance program. They don't want any other reality other than their own to be out there, and they vehemently attack anything outside their little box because they have some kind of a vested interest in that box.
Right.
And there's always those people. They always come with the territory. I mean, if you took them out in the field and a UFO landed in front of them, 2 days later they would say it didn't happen. And I've actually seen something very similar to that happen. So I just put them in the they have that cognitive dissonance program going.
Right.
They're either disinformation people. They have an agenda other than truth, and we just put them in that category.
Exactly, and I think a lot of those are the types, certainly in the media anyway, those types just aren't going to read the book because it's too scary. I mean, but they still write reviews about it.
Well, they've been scoffing and smirking at UFOs for so long and making fun of them that they would have to own, their ignorance. And so,
that's true. They can't retract it.
No.
Yep, their egos are way too invested in what they've already said.
Exactly. So they can't. So getting back to that, which one do you think? Let's just pull out. I don't want to say the best one, but let's just pull out some of the better interviews.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, let's talk about the Belgian one because.
All right.
I actually decided to put that in the very beginning of the book because I think it just sort of is such a great all-around, relatively uncomplicated case to lay out, which just establishes without a doubt just what you just said. I mean, you read that Belgian case alone, and you know that something had to have been going on there, and it's just. Back in 89 and 90, this wave, it was it's like what you've got going on up there, James. This thing kept repeating itself, coming back and back to the same little country of Belgium. And what was interesting was that the government decided to do something about it. They didn't behave like our government does. But the Air Force was very involved in trying to identify what these objects were. And Major General Wilfried de Brouwer, who was then a colonel, was in charge of the Air Force investigation. He's the one that actually wrote a chapter for the book about his own investigation of this. And he brings forward many witness drawings. I mean, there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that saw these things, including police officers and military people, et cetera. And lots of data was collected. And he just did everything one could possibly do, including going to NATO countries and high-level officials in the United States to find out if these things could possibly be